What's going on, guys? Today I have an unboxing video for you of the Gigabyte Z87X-UD5H motherboard. This is going to be a great motherboard for, you probably could have guessed it, a Hackintosh, or even if you want to do like a Windows gaming PC, throw like an i5 or an i7 in here. This is going to be a fantastic board for you. Of course, this is a fully Haswell motherboard, socket 1150, so you can't use previous generation processors in this build, but for my purposes, I'm going to be throwing a Core i7 4770K in there, so this processor in conjunction with a lot of the features that this motherboard has is going to make for an awesome build, whether you want it to be a Hackintosh or a gaming PC or even a content production PC. Basically anything you guys want to do with it, this motherboard is going to shine with. So I don't want to bore you too much with a long intro. I know you guys just want to see the board, so let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, so here we have the front of the Z87X-UD5H box. Right up here, obviously it designates that this is for Intel Core processors. That'd be Core i3, i5, and i7. Intel chip. Obviously this has the Z87 chipset, in case you couldn't tell by those big, 3-letter and number thingies right there. Ultra durable. Obviously this is a Gigabyte motherboard. All their PCBs advertise that they're ultra durable, and they in fact are. They have multiple layers of the PCB that makes them so say for example you're pushing on that memory, you're not going to get that nice silicone cracking noise. I mean, their motherboards really are very durable. A couple more things down here. All new heatsink design. We'll get a little more into that. All digital CPU power design. So there's just a few various things that they're advertising up here. Of course, this is LGA 1150. That's Haswell. Like I said in the intro, you cannot use any previous generation processors with this motherboard. Now getting in the back, where they mention a lot more different features. Of course, I'm not going to go over all of them, but just right off the bat, a few things that stick out. Exclusive UEFI dual BIOS, so there's 2 BIOS chips on here, which is always awesome. Gaming headphone amplifier. Once again, if you're using this for a gaming PC, for like a Windows, then you're definitely going to take advantage of that when you're gaming. Better sound is always awesome. Now this down here is something that really stands out to me with this motherboard. Down here, inclusive on this motherboard, we have 10 SATA 3 ports. A lot of motherboards only have 6. Granted, 4 of these are Marvell controllers. I'll get a little more into that later. Marvell controllers aren't quite as fast as normal SATA 3, at least they never have been in my experience, but trust me, 10 SATA 3 ports is very awesome on this motherboard. Of course, we have 4 memory slots. These support RAM up to 3000 megahertz overclocked, so that's really fast memory. That's awesome. Of course, there's our CPU socket. Here's some of that advanced cooling they were talking about. So you have heat pipes and little heat spreaders right here that help keep the board nice and cool. All the various electronics up above the CPU socket there. Another thing that's pretty cool on this motherboard, like me, I have a test bench right over here on my desk, and so this is going to be on there for a while. And in doing so, I could just push this button right here on the PCB, and I don't have to wire up the front panel switch or anything like that. I'm not going to bore you guys too much more with the box. Here's a nice little overview of the rear panel. And so without boring you guys anymore, let's just go ahead and dig into this box. So digging into this nice white box, we have more whiteness. That's pretty sweet. And I guess I could call this in Apple fashion. We have the products right on top here. So of course we'll take out the board, and I'm going to put this off to the side for just 1 second. Next in the box, we have a nice little Gigabyte badge for your case if you want to do that. Personally, I never do. I never put stickers on my case. That's just my, it's how I am. So we'll get this cardboard out of the way here. And I guess we'll start down here. In the box, they give us 6 SATA cables, which is pretty neat. A lot of manufacturers only give you 2 or 4. This is the first time I think I've ever received more than 4, so that's very good on Gigabyte's part, especially because, like I said earlier, this board has 10 SATA slots. So this is for people that have a lot of SATA devices, a lot of hard drives, dual optical drives, things like that. So that's very nice. Moving up here to this guy, here we have a dual USB 3.0 header. This can go in the front or the back of your case, kind of just depends where you want them. Of course, this plugs right into the USB 3 header on your motherboard, so there's that. Very nice that that's included. Here we have some awesome manuals. I assume some kind of a DVD for some drivers, of course, so that's also very interesting. And up here we do have 2 more goodies. Here we have an Sli Bridge. This board does support 2-way crossfire and 2-way SLI, so they give you a nice little Sli bridge. And right here we have the rear panel, which goes in the back of your case. So getting to the star of the show, I have touched the metal poles on the bottom of my desk to really try to avoid any kind of static or anything like that. And so with that said, here's the motherboard itself. So I guess the way we'll try to do this is to work from top to the bottom on this motherboard. So I guess the first thing that stands out is this awesome cooling right here. This is that advanced cooling they were talking about on the front. This is very common on a lot of motherboards, but this board features a heat pipe that transfers heat from here and here, through this pipe. And from there, as you can see right below that, we do have a ton of fan headers right there. So they're pretty serious about cooling on this motherboard, which is definitely a good thing. All this current technology and these very fast processors do put out a lot of heat, so it's very good that they're taking cooling seriously with this motherboard. Right below that, we do have the CPU socket. This is gold-plated socket 1150. Once again in this video, I promise not to say it anymore, compatible with only Haswell processors. So do not go out and buy this board hoping that an Ivy Bridge chip is going to work in it, because you will be very disappointed, even though there's only a 5-pin difference. As you can see right here, we do have holes that outline where some CPU cooling would go. I definitely recommend going aftermarket. There's a lot of really awesome solutions out there, both liquid and air. Do not just use that stock cooler, especially if you're going to buy this board. You probably plan on doing a lot with your computer, so do yourself a favor and keep that processor nice and chilly. Over here, we do have 4 memory slots. This board supports up to 32 gigabytes of dual channel memory, which is very awesome. Once again, like I said earlier, up to 3000 megahertz clock. That's 3 gigahertz if you overclock your RAM, which is insanely fast. That's definitely the fastest I've seen, and so that's very good right there. You do have an 8-pin CPU power, which is very good. You're going to be able to get some very nice overclocks, especially if you throw like a 4770K in there. I bet there's going to be some people that even get close to 5 gigahertz, which would just be insane. It would definitely require some very good cooling, but that's not to say it can't happen. Moving over here a little bit more, that's that little power button I was talking about. You could just simply, push that in. Over here, we also have Cmos Reset and Reset switches as well, so very convenient there. And another thing that's really cool about this motherboard, and what a lot of enthusiasts are gonna like, is that right over here, you can actually get a voltage meter and, take the voltages of all these various little things over here. So I would call those the main features of the upper 40, I guess you could say, of the motherboard here. Moving down just a little bit, right over here on the right, we have that standard 24-pin ATX power connector. And also right here, something that not a lot of motherboards have, but I am seeing a little bit more often nowadays. This is actually a nice little display that'll throw error codes and things like that to help you diagnose system problems whenever you boot up your computer. So that's very nice. Right below that, we do have a USB 3.0 header, which is just awesome. And we actually have 2 of those on this motherboard, really quick, just going down there, which once again is not extremely common. Right below the power connector, we do have an additional SATA power connection. So if you plug that in, that's going to help give you some more power to the next area I'm going to cover over here, your PCI slots. So if you're running like a Crossfire setup and you've maybe populated this old PCI down here, maybe a PCI 1X, you're definitely going to have some power requirements. And so by filling this guy with power, it's going to give you some more PCI juice as well. Now for the PCI slots, we have 3 PCI 1X slots. There's 2 right here and 1 way up here at the top. We have 3 PCI Express 3.0 slots. We have a by 16 at the top, a by 8 in the middle, and a by 4 at the very bottom. And we also have 1 legacy PCI connection, which not a lot of people still use. And frankly, I'm kind of surprised that they went with that on this particular motherboard. But if you do have some older devices that do use traditional PCI, you do have that option. To the left of those PCI slots, we do have just a few things I want to talk about over here, mostly dealing with audio. Right over here, we have the audio chipset for this motherboard. This motherboard packs the Realtek ALC898 audio chipset, which is compatible with OS X, so you'll be perfectly fine there. And this guy right here, I believe is that chip for the enhanced audio that comes out of here. You can't really see it, but this green port here, all this stuff back here, the onboard audio. This chip down here is going to help boost the quality of that audio. So moving to the very bottom of the motherboard, at the very bottom row, on the very left we have the front panel audio connectors. So that's if you have like a headphone jack or a microphone input on the front of your case, you can plug that in and that'll work for you. To the right of that is something that I think makes this a very good board for content production, and that is 2 Firewire headers, 1394. A lot of motherboards nowadays don't have these, now in the days of Thunderbolt and everything like that, but a lot of people still do use Firewire, and having 2 headers really is awesome. I know a lot of people that have this on the front panel connector and say on the back or by a PCI card or something like that, and so these are really handy to have, like I said, especially if you're a content producer. To the right of those Firewire headers, we have the Trusted Platform Module connection. Many people don't even know what this is. Many people don't even use it at all, mostly for like business environments, things like that. So that not really a huge selling point for a lot of people, but I guess it is there if you do want it. To the right of that, we have 2 USB 2.0 headers. Moving right along, we have a COM connector for a serial connection. To the right of that, 2 more 4-pin fan headers, bringing us to a total of 6. We have 2 here, 3 up by the CPU, and 1 more on the right side. So lots of fan connections. Once again, they're all 4-pin, which is really going to be nice to help regulate the cooling and the ambient noise coming from your case. And of course, by that I mean when your system is warmer or your processor is really processing a lot of stuff, it'll rev up the fans to help keep it cool. Then again, when you're not doing that much and your system's idle, your fan RPMs are going to be nice and low, therefore providing you with a nice quiet computer. Like you guys saw earlier, to the right of that, there are two USB 3.0 headers, one being right here and one being at the top like I showed you. And right here, you do have the front panel connectors. So your power switch, your reset switch, things like that, those all get plugged in right there. Now rotating around right over here, here's the whopping 10 SATA ports that I told you guys about. As you can see, we have 6 up here and 2 right down here. Now with Haswell, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Haswell brings support, officially for up to 6 SATA 3 ports. And so these 2 down here are different colors because they're a different chipset. Like I mentioned earlier, these use the Marvell chipset. These do support RAID from RAID 0 to RAID 1 and RAID 10. So those 3 different RAID configurations are supported out of the box, which is great. But like I said, they're not going to be quite as fast as the native chipset. But keep in mind, they are still SATA 3. They can work just fine in conjunction with these guys up here, so no worries there. And now the last thing I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to flip to the rear of the board here, and we're going to show you the rear I/O. So here we have the rear I/O for the UD5H, and I guess we'll start over here at the top left. We have an old school PS2 port, and I do say old school, but there's actually a lot of people that still use that for modern gaming keyboards and mice, things like that. But I'm not a gamer, and I absolutely never use that port, so I call it old school because to me it is old. I can't remember the last time I've used it. Below that we have 2 of the 6 USB 3.0 ports. To the right of that we have a DVI connection, 2 HDMI, which is pretty sweet, and of course a display port. Above that we have the optical audio. Above that we have dual gigabit Ethernet, both of which are Intel controllers, which is very nice. There's a lot of motherboards that have one Intel and then one crappy one. These are both Intel controllers, so you're going to get some awesome speed through that. It's really nice. Down below that we have 4 more USB 3.0 ports, so 6 USB 3.0 altogether. And keep in mind that USB 2.0 is now gone. There are no USB 2.0 ports here. Granted, these are backwards compatible, and there are USB 2.0 headers at the bottom of the motherboard like you guys just saw. So if you do want to add some PCI cards that are USB 2.0, that's not going to be a problem. Or if your case has USB 2.0 on the front of it, you can use those as well. And down right below that, you have your traditional audio outputs and inputs, microphone, speaker, and all that good stuff. So there you guys go. There's my unboxing and overview of the Gigabyte Z87X-UD5H motherboard. As I said in the intro, this is going to be a great motherboard for any Hackintosh or gaming PC build, or even just to run Linux on as a server, anything like that. This is going to be a great motherboard for you to use. Please let me know any of your thoughts or suggestions down below in the comments. I'm at CPU Kid on Twitter. Also be sure to check out RocheTechnology.com, and I hope to see you guys back here very soon.